All right, hello and welcome everyone to today's Fairygodboss live webinar. We're so excited to have you all join us. We're going to give folks a few seconds to connect. While we're waiting, we'd love to know where everybody's tuning in from today. You'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a chat box. So if you feel comfortable doing so, please send a message in the chat saying, hey, and let us know where you're joining from. I see we have folks from Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, Boston, Berkeley, Kansas City, Savannah, all over. That's great. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm JJ Tavernier, Director and Principal Engineer at Capital Group, and I'm joining from our offices in San Antonio. Capital Group is a 93-year-old global investment management firm with roughly $2.5 trillion under management. Capital Group is one of the world's largest active investment management firms, relying on hundreds of portfolio managers and investment analysts to drive long-term superior investment results for our millions of clients. I lead the fundamental research in artificial intelligence, machine learning, engineering initiatives at Capital Group. I work with engineers, scientists, product managers, UX designers, and investment professionals to design, build, and operate technologies that enable our investment professionals to be more efficient and more effective. Before we get started, I have a few quick announcements. The session will be recorded and shared via email with all registrants. During the discussion, we would love to hear from you. We'll hope you'll use the stage chat on the right-hand side of your screen to send messages, comments, and questions to the panelists and to one another. And now I'm excited to kick off today's event, the Generative AI, GenAI Opportunity for Women, sponsored by Capital Group. For those who don't know, Fairygodboss is the largest online career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairygodboss for career connections, jobs, community advice, hard to find intel about how companies treat women, and virtual events like this. I'm thrilled to be joined today by three of my colleagues, Myra Chen, Lisa Mirkovich, and Laura Lavery Faulkner. Would you each take a minute to introduce yourselves, please? We'd love to hear what's going on in your life personally, and also professionally, and what you do today in your roles at Capital Group. And also, please share where you're joining from. Myra, we'll start with you.
Sure, sounds good. Hey, everyone. My name is Myra Chen. I'm a Director of Insights and Analytics at Capital Group. I'm based in LA. I've been with Capital Group for close to 6 years. Prior to that, I spent my entire career within financial services industry, focusing on developing and delivering data service and analytics solutions to meet various business needs. In my current role, I lead sales, marketing, and digital analytics. I work with sales leaders, marketing leaders, digital product managers, data engineers, data product manager, IT technologists to understand the business insights and develop data science models and integrate our forward-looking model recommendations into production systems. Super excited to be here and share with you Capital Group's approach in GenAI adoption, and also share my thoughts on how we can all be prepared for an AI-powered future.
All right, thanks, Myra. Lisa, do you want to go next?
Sure, thank you, JJ. Thank you, Myra. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Mirkovich. I'm calling from Irvine, California. I've been in Capital Group for the last 25 years, started as a developer in a language called Smalltalk. I don't know how many of you remember that. Currently, I work in our enterprise data office, leading as a director of data engineering, so supporting specifically our investment group, which means we are providing data that powers a lot of our investment group analytics, operational apps, as well as models. With Myra and Laura, we also co-lead community called Women in Data and Analytics, which enables many women across Capital Group, not just women in data and tech, but in sales, marketing, and elsewhere, to learn about data and apply data and in their day-to-day decision-making. I'm very excited to be here with all of you and share the same like we do for Capital Group Women.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. Laura, you want to round us out?
Yes, thank you, JJ. It's great to be here with all of you, and thanks to Fairygodboss for this great opportunity to talk about this exciting topic. I'm just going to give one disclaimer. I'm just getting over a cold, so my voice is a little lower than normal. And if you can't hear me, just put that in the chat and I'll try to bring it up a bit. So just a quick note about me. So I'm a senior vice president here at Capital Group. I've been here for 16 years. And during that time, I've led several large transformations. And in the last 7 years, what's probably relevant to this conversation is I've really been focused on leading Capital Group's evolution around investment management data, both in our investment operations area and now in the investment group. I'm also the executive sponsor for our Women in Data and Analytics community at Capital Group. And prior to that, I spent 15 years at Accenture doing similar type work with financial services and investment management clients. And I'm also based in Los Angeles, and I live in Manhattan Beach, California.
All right. Thank you, Laura, Lisa, and Myra. I'm excited for our discussion today. And for those of you just tuning in, I'd like to remind everyone that we'll be answering questions that come directly from you all. Please submit your questions on the chat on the right of your screen, and we'll do our best to respond to as many as we can. Before diving into questions for the panelists, I want to give a brief overview of asset management from Capital Group's perspective, just to do some level setting. First, I'll mention the investment process. We actively manage client capital. This is in contrast to many managers that are more passive in their approach. So this means that we have a number of investment analysts that perform long-term fundamental research and analysis into companies, and portfolio managers that use that research and analysis to decide how to allocate client capital. The process of researching companies and industries involves lots of meetings with company executives, reading primary materials about an industry or technology, reading sell-side research, SEC filings, news, and other materials. This information is synthesized by the research analyst into models where they model specific aspects of the company, like future revenue, earnings, cash flow, and they distill the research into research notes. An analyst is typically specialized in a particular subset of companies, like those in a particular sector, like automobiles, a particular region, like Latin America, or based on the size of the company, like a small market cap company. Portfolio managers, they read and discuss research from many analysts, and then they make decisions about which of tens of thousands of companies they should invest in and how much to invest in each. The analyst and portfolio manager are often trying to determine where we have a differentiated view from consensus, or what is not already priced into the company's price on the stock exchange. Both of these jobs, the analyst and portfolio management jobs, they're both data intensive. They require lots of time reading, writing, and analyzing. And because of that, generative AI is a natural fit here. Laura, as she mentioned, she works in the investment group, and she'll go into more detail about how generative AI is being used to innovate that part of the business. Another big part of our business involves communicating to clients and prospective clients about our funds. This can involve taking support calls from clients that have questions about their accounts, creating and distributing Capital Group's market perspectives for clients, and acquiring new clients through marketing. Producing these materials is time intensive, requiring consuming, synthesizing, and otherwise, lots of internal and external data to produce easy to understand fund and market materials for our clients. This problem is amplified when you consider that Capital Group is a global company with clients that speak and read many languages. Generative AI is a natural fit in sales and marketing as well. Myra, as she mentioned earlier, she works in our sales, marketing, and service organization, and she'll talk more about how generative AI is being used to innovate that part of our business. And then the lifeblood of both the investment and client sales, marketing, and service organizations that I just mentioned is high quality data. Acquiring, preparing, and vending data is necessary both to make high quality investment decisions on behalf of our clients, and also how to communicate clearly and effectively to clients and prospective clients. And so Lisa is going to talk more about how we're innovating our data platform to enable the business and our clients. All right, so let's dive into the questions for our panelists. So I'd like to start by talking about Capital Group's journey to becoming a leader in data and technology. Laura, can you explain the transformation journey that Capital Group has been on that positions us well for generative AI? We'll start with you, and then we'll jump over to Lisa.
Great, thanks. Happy to do it. And we have been on a journey. It's been challenging, but it's also been very gratifying. And it's interesting because I have to say it's, many people will probably know this if you're in data. This is one of the unique times in my career where it's felt like data is a very cool job to be in. For a long time, it wasn't. But I think we have ChatGPT to thank for that, and all of the great applications that data really provides. If we think about what we're about to talk about, it's pretty exciting. So I'm going to tell a quick story. About 7 years ago, a group of CG leaders and myself, we went on this fact-finding mission, talked to a lot of our partners to better understand how others were approaching transformation because we knew we needed to scale. We learned many things on the trip, and actually we even got to sit down with Michael Bloomberg, which was great, just to talk strategy. They're obviously a leader from a data perspective. And what we learned from a number of these leaders is that, they all had three differentiators in common. They had strong C and board level engagement for major data and analytics initiatives, which is huge. They really had that top-down guidance. They had really integrated business data and tech strategies. Those were hardwired together. And they all had central data hubs connected to nimble business teams. And as I sit here today, I feel like, we have all three of those and more. We talk about data and tech strategy weekly with most senior leaders. It's the fourth pillar of our long-term strategy. And, we also have an enterprise data organization at our hub now, that we didn't have, 6 or 7 years ago. We have that now. And we have company-wide efforts specifically focused on generative AI to accelerate us in this space. So I think these are no regret moves, and it's really positioned us well to harness the power of these technologies.
All right. Thanks, Laura. Lisa, do you want to talk about data platforms and how we're moving forward there?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Laura. And like Laura mentioned, we implemented and completed many transformational initiatives that are paying big dividends now for GenAI and AI in general. Top three that I think are most impactful are data in cloud, enhanced security and privacy, and thinking about data as a product. So I'm just going to double click a little bit into all three. We know that AI requires high compute and rapid scales, which is a sweet spot for cloud technologies. A few years back in Capital Group, we completed migration of all of our data warehouses into cloud while also re-architecting it to modern data platforms like Data Lake, Spark, and similar technologies. This immediately unlocked ability to add new features and new capabilities and really allow for this test and learn approach that are a natural part of any more model build out. It really enabled also these GenAI use cases that we're going to learn about later on. With move to cloud, we also had to increase our security and enhance security posture. We had to enhance our access to data to be really much more fine-grained. And we also had to talk about encryption of our data in both at rest and in motion. This all together really give us a solid foundation for when large language models are able to really discern real time between confidential and non-confidential information. We will have that foundation ready and make sure that right users and right models have access to the right data. So we really did a great job here. And last but not least, like JJ mentioned, AI relies heavily on a clean, complete, high quality data. And we really shifted our approach to start engineering data as a product, which essentially means not thinking about data as a file or a table or just an interface, but really taking the comprehensive view of what the product definition is, collect a lot of metadata about the data so we have more accurate view of what data is all about. Proactively managing quality of the data, so when there's a critical defects, we can fix them before users and models do. And last but not least, which is really important for ML models, is packaging history of that data together with the current data that we have. So if we talk about, like JJ talked about, transactions that our investors do, or orders, or customers that Myra is facing with we want to have a full history of that attached to the product and making sure that that's readily available at scale. We believe that's going to be a really great game changer. So in summary, what Laura shared and what I shared, we believe that Capital Group took a very comprehensive and forward-looking approach many years ago that now it's paying a lot of dividends. It's going to enable Gen AI use cases of today and of the future and really adds value to our business.
All right. Thanks, Lisa and Laura, for diving into a little bit about our data and technology transformation journey. Let's go a little bit deeper into generative AI. And specifically, let's probe this question. What are some problem statements at CG and in the asset management industry overall that we think generative AI can address? What are the relevant use cases? Laura, do you want to start off by talking about investment group use cases and opportunities? And then Myra, you can discuss sales, marketing, and services use cases.
Yeah, happy to do that. There are really a ton of exciting examples in our industry to use AI in assistive capacities. You've got summarization techniques, which we never had before. People are looking at digital assistants all the way to digital portfolio managers, if I think about our industry. And for us, we are a 90-year-old company with fundamental research at our core. And so we have a vast amount of data on our funds and the companies that we invest in, much of that data is actually in unstructured formats like PDFs. And that actually has been a huge headwind for us until this moment, to really use that and harness all the power of it and that history that we have. But obviously, thanks to Sam Altman and OpenAI and Google, we can now search and work with unstructured data in groundbreaking ways, really. And so we are actively experimenting, like many others, to unlock those efficiencies where vast amounts of data, both internal and external, need to be summarized, searched, or extracted. And one quick example that I would highlight, which I think is a great one, is just we create company packs for our investment professionals. They spend a lot of time studying companies and talking to companies, and those things can be 80 pages, 100 pages. And so we put a cover page on the front of that, and that takes hours when someone's doing it and curating it. It can now take seconds. And that's not to say that there's no human in the loop here. We think that's very important. These tools are additive. They're adding to our productivity. They're not a replacement for what people do, but they're going to dramatically streamline a lot of these activities. So I think we're kind of in that moment where it couldn't be more timely, and we're really excited about how this will amplify Capital Group's competitive advantage. One quick fun fact I was going to share: did you guys know that the amount of data that's created every day worldwide is 330 million terabytes? And for a little perspective on what that could mean, 10 terabytes is equivalent to a printed collection of the largest library in the world, which is the U.S. Library of Congress, which has 162 million artifacts. So we would need 33 million of those to equate to essentially what is produced every single day digitally. So obviously these models could not be more timely. And I know, JJ, coming back to Capital Group and how we use it, you as our lead software engineer and resident expert in GenAI, I'm sure you can add a few examples as well from the investment group, because you're building these things right now for us.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Yeah, we've been really focused on trying to find areas where generative AI can provide business differentiation. That's key to our strategy. In particular, right now, at least, we're very focused on finding ways to give investors time back. As you mentioned, making them much more productive, so they can focus on higher leverage activities like improved company modeling, spending more time with company executives, and getting insights into their thinking and where the company's moving. So some specific initiatives we're working on right now is unlocking, you mentioned this 90-year corpus of research publications. And a lot of that information is locked in these PDFs and doesn't often get used or leveraged. So we're working on surfacing that information in new and interesting ways. So for instance, we're now able to view investment theses or views on management over time And we can do things like overlay buy sell recommendations on price charts, and that can help give the analyst an understanding of whether they tend to recommend buying at the top and selling at the bottom, things along those lines. Previously performing this type of analysis required lots of costly manual effort. Another initiative I'll highlight is that we've been building a chat experience for our investors so that they can directly ask in-depth investment questions, things like what were the potential warning signs of the SVB banking crisis, which happened last year? And then they can get answers in a matter of seconds. Again, previously this would have required lots of searches, lots of reading, lots of scanning, and that might have taken hours or days to get an answer. And just echoing what you just mentioned, we're consciously building these experiences such that there's always a human in the middle, to validate the responses out of these generative AI systems. At least at this point of the technology, we can't rely upon the systems without validation. So these are just a couple of things that we're working on with the investment group. Myra, maybe you can highlight some areas and some use cases that you're seeing opportunity in sales, marketing, and service.
Yeah, absolutely, JJ. And I guess when it comes to Gen AI adoption, I do hope to highlight the fact that CG's approach has been very thoughtful and responsible. I'm sure you, Laura and Lisa would agree with me. I think instead of us jumping right into the use case identification and development, we as an organization, we actually identified a group of cross-functional leaders, including legal, risk, security, compliance, HR, IT, data, enterprise change management, and of course, investment and client group. We formed a GenAI risk oversight committee. And this committee is essentially will guide the thinking, the strategy, the development of the overall effort across the organization. So that way, the entire organization is aligned behind the same vision and execution. And this approach really helped to enable a responsible, secure, and rapid enablement of AI. When it comes to sales and marketing and service, there are definitely multiple use cases. JJ, you mentioned earlier that CG is a global organization, and we have clients across the globe that they speak and read different languages. So one of the use cases is really to leverage GenAI as an accelerator to allow us to produce our document translation, right? From English to other languages such as French, Spanish, Italian, traditional Chinese, etc. And also, I think both you and Laura mentioned that this is not meant to take human out of the process, but really meant to speed up our production and free up capacity. And another of our current focus is really to think about how we can leverage GenAI, right, to provide better and faster client services to our customers. For example, we are currently running a field pilot using large language model to empower our service representatives to quickly summarize answers based on our internal documents, guidelines, and web pages through very simple natural language inquiry, right? So that our service representatives are equipped with the best knowledge to respond to our customers' varying needs. And then another thing that I also hope to highlight is, in addition, right, to thinking about how we can best service our client, we also have introduced the different GenAI tools, right, to enable our associates' success. Right. For example, we introduced the GitHub Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, Power BI Copilot, right, to allow our associates, right, to write better code, speed up their documentation, uncover deeper data insights and analysis, right? These tools really help to improve the efficiency and quality of our own work, and also foster a culture of learning and innovation among our associates. And as we go through this journey, we also encourage our associates to review the GenAI guidance, right, before using these tools, right, so that they understand how these tools should be used responsibly, right, including familiarize themselves, right, with some of the term of usage, right, for both GenAI and Copilot.
All right, thanks, Laura and Myra. And yes, I can echo, the gains in productivity that I personally am seeing using some of these tools, GitHub Copilot, M365 Copilot. They're just so empowering. So thanks for highlighting those opportunities and initiatives that we see in generative AI in our industry. Maybe moving on to another topic. So what advice do you have for women who are considering opportunities in generative AI, especially if they're new to the industry? And also, how has Capital Group supported women in this space? Lisa, let's start off with you.
Thank you. I'll talk a little bit about how I'm thinking we can seize all these opportunities and then pass it on to Myra to talk about what Capital is specifically doing. So in my view, opportunities in this space is very big. And the reason why I think is threefold. One, we all heard and we know that GenAI is revolutionary, and all the technologies of the past of the same type transform the world around us. Second, this technology is very horizontal in nature, which means it's going to be embedded in every industry. It's not going to be specific just for tech. I saw somebody here is from pharma. It's going to be in pharma, in medicine, in law, finance, any industry. It will benefit from it. So it's very horizontal in nature. And then the third, even though we talk a lot about it and there is a lot of feels like hype, we have to keep in mind that we are all almost starting from scratch, which actually leaves a lot of untapped opportunities for everyone, including women. So how do we seize on these opportunities? How do we start? And how do we as women lead the way? I would like to offer a simple framework that I also honestly try to model as well, which is educate yourself, be an expert, and be an advocate. So educate yourself. I think you probably heard somewhere, and I read somewhere, that GenAI will not take your job, but the ones who understand how this technology works will be at significant advantage, which really means you need to understand how it works, read about it, listen to podcasts, listen to YouTube videos from various experts on this topic, from the ones that are saying this technology is really, really going to do a lot of damage to the ones that are saying it's going to save the world. And most importantly, take classes and try it hands-on. And from my personal experience, if you don't understand it, keep pushing. Keep being curious until you form your own perspective and opinions, how it works and how you can apply it. So educate yourself. Second one, be an expert. I also read somewhere that all CEOs of the future will be Gen AI literate. Not all tech CEOs, all CEOs of, again, any company and any industry, which means that in addition to understanding how Gen AI works, you need to be expert in your domain. And you need to be really, really good at what you do, regardless, again, of the field. Recently, I mentored some, college kids, and one told me yesterday or a few days ago, I'm going to work in AI startup. And I was like, yeah, what type? It's like, oh, it's going to be heating, ventilation, and air conditioning startup that is going to use AI. And I'm so excited because I'm a mechanical engineer. So she can apply her degree and use AI to build better apps in that space. And what's also really important, people think that the only way how you can contribute is to build the models. But I don't think that's true. If you're expert in your domain, whether it's a law or medicine, you can contribute to the end-to-end spectrum for making sure the data is correct, to making sure you can test output if it's accurate or fake or have hallucination or bias inaccuracy. So my advice is be an expert in your domain. And last but not least, be the advocate for inclusion and diversity, especially when it comes to opportunities to learn and apply Gen AI. I think it's more important than ever to have diversity of thought and leadership, which is really call to action to all my fellow leaders on this call to ensure there is opportunity for everyone to apply this technology. In your day job, be active participant, raise questions, provide perspective, share your learnings to make sure that everybody has the same access and understanding. And last but not least, I really truly believe that this technology can be a great equalizer, but it can also further the gaps of inequality that if we don't do anything about it. So be an advocate.
All right.
Myra, please go
Myra.
ahead, share what we do in all these dimensions in Capital Group.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, for sharing your thoughts. I do want to echo. I think a lot of what you mentioned, right? I also resonate, a ton with your perspectives. Before I jump into what we do at Capital, I do also want to highlight a few kind of my perspective about Gen AI, right? I know this is something that I also feel super excited, and I have multiple conversations with Lisa on this topic. I do think we need to have this, growth mentality. We need to embrace the change, recognizing that AI is here to stay, right? And a lot of industries, including Capital Group, has already started the journey, right, to adopt Gen AI. So we really need to have this mentality shift to embrace Gen AI. And I think we need to be mentally prepared. I think it's very important. Number two, I do also, want to echo that, Lisa's point about the role of AI. AI is not, I really see that AI, we need to understand the role of AI. AI is very good at completing specific tasks accurately and with accuracy and timely. But AI isn't necessarily going to take your job away. And we need to understand the difference, right? The difference is when it comes to task completion, right, it has to be accurate, it has to be quick. But when it comes to a job, right, you need to understand what problem to solve and how to solve it. So that really means that, we need to have that critical thinking. We need to have that in-depth domain knowledge, right? Especially in the age of AI, right? We need to be a thinker, right? We cannot just be a task order taker. AI is not going to take away our critical thinking and our human decision making. So it is super important, right, that we continue using our judgment. And then lastly, I also want to highlight, this is something I also reflect a ton myself, especially when I'm thinking about the future of my children. I do think it is super important that we have a clear purpose. AI does not have a purpose. AI's purpose is really just to service in human, right? Completing the task that human asks them to do. But we as a human, we have purpose, right? We have dreams that we want to realize. We have impact we want to make. We have changes that we hope to deliver. We need to be very crystal clear on our purpose. So that's why, right, these tools and technological advancement are really going to help, right, to achieve our goals and our purpose. I do want to say that, as AI free up capacity, AI does also introduce a ton of opportunity. And these opportunities, right, will come to CG, will also come to every company, every industry. For example, right, there will be increasing needs for AI ethics and AI governance. There will also be training and education needs, right? For example, when we introduce these GenAI tools, right, there will be the needs to educate our associates, right, how to use these tools, right, how to be better at these tools. And then change management is going to be another piece, right? How are we going to integrate AI into our day-to-day workflow, right, to establish a seamless operating model? And another area, right, data management, and how can we continue advancing a very robust data foundation, right, so that it will enable, right, that fast AI adoption. And then lastly, we also need to understand, to Lisa's point, right, we need to understand the limitation of AI, right? AI isn't going to solve all of our problems. So, be very clear what AI is good at, what AI is not meant for. So if you think about those areas, right, at CG, in each of these opportunity areas, right, we make sure, right, that we involve, our female associates. And in fact, it's not just female associates, it's, all associates, right? To Lisa's point, right, AI will be an equalizer, but it's also important that as we adopt AI, and we integrate all different perspectives, right? So that's why we reduce the potential bias that could be introduced through AI, and making sure, right, AI, it's truly, right, going to bring diverse perspective and really to enable our collective success.
All right. Thank you, Lisa and Myra. I really liked, Myra, what you said about kind of being very clear on your purpose, and then making sure that the AI is helping to fulfill that purpose. Let's continue on this theme of women at Capital Group. Laura, are there any specific initiatives or support systems at Capital Group to empower and build confidence among women in technology roles? For instance, employee resource groups or mentorship, things along those lines?
Yes, absolutely. I could talk about that for a couple minutes. So Capital Women is the umbrella that we have at Capital Group. And it's a network of women's communities focused on enriching career experiences for women across all different types of jobs. And one of the specific communities that I mentioned during my introduction that we put in place, and both Lisa and Myra are leaders in that as well with myself, is the Women in Data and Analytics community, which has about 300 members and is globally and is growing. And it's both for women who are in data roles today and women who are interested in data roles. And we focus on a number of things, including supporting career pathing, networking support, development opportunities. We also do external outreach to universities and events like this. We also have an early career hire program called DART that's specifically focused on data and analytics. It's a rotational program. It allows early career hires to come in and experience different types of data and analytics roles. And we know, while this program's open to all, but we know that diverse teams are the highest performing teams. And so we're committed to investing in these associates, and we prioritize that accordingly. So those are two examples that we think are really helping us continue to move in the right direction on supporting women in these types of careers, because it's competitive. And I think we all know that industry-wide, we want to see more balance between, like, from a gender perspective and a diversity perspective in these types of roles.
All right. Thanks, Laura. All right, now it's time for our audience Q&A. Typically, we take 3 to 5 questions from the audience. And one question that we're seeing a number of times is, do you have any recommendations on specific podcasts, YouTubes that the listeners can hone in on and start with? Lisa, I think I might be recalling this incorrectly, but I think you maybe took a course recently, an online course in large language models.
Yeah, I
answer this one.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Yeah. I took a 14-week course by Databricks, which is certified LLM. I forgot full name, but it doesn't have to be Databricks. Any colleges, like I see a lot, Stanford, Berkeley, Ivy's, they all have free courses in LLM. What's really important is to look at, to be hands-on. So you can really, really try to understand how it works on your own and the process of building them. So that was really enlightening to me, and it was not easy to pass. so yeah, I had to really focus and learn a lot around it. In terms of podcasts and YouTubes, I mean, I'm keeping track of everything I'm listening, but I think most important is to listen to the current leaders and listen to their interviews. Most fascinating for me is to listen to Sam Altman interviews and what he does today, and that interview that he had 2-3 years ago when he was thinking about it, and then compare the notes and also understand the history of this. So I would look at all the leaders of the top AI companies or tech companies, and I would also look at different it's a personal preference, but there's different people who are really ingrained in tech and have weekly podcasts around it, and you kind of start listening to it. So if anybody needs more specific, obviously you guys can connect to me with LinkedIn and I can share the most impactful ones. But I think starting with listening and interviews with the key leaders in this space is very, very enlightening to see how they're thinking and how they're strategizing about where this technology will take us.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I'd also, put a pitch in, along the lines of listening to leaders. There's a gentleman that was at OpenAI and then Tesla and then back at OpenAI. And now he's kind of a freelancer again, Andre Karpathy, and he has some really good videos on YouTube. And I think one thing maybe we could do at the end of this is when we send out some resources, maybe we could send out some podcasts, some recommendations on YouTube videos that we found useful. Let's move on. Kristen asked, in your experience at Capital Group, how are you able to navigate any organizational tensions between ethics and risk management in this technology versus a push to innovate from a tech product point of view? And Laura, I think you've been pretty close to our oversight process. Do you want to take a stab at this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've clearly run into that ourselves because there's a lot of things to think about with these technologies. And as Myra and Lisa already talked about, there are clearly accountabilities that we need to think about, the implications of what these technologies can do, some good, some unknown. So what we've done at Capital Group is we put in place an enterprise structure. So we do have a risk oversight process. We also have each of the lines of business performing their own, a governance process on, hey, these are the things that we would like to do with this type of technology. And we also take that when we think there's enterprise risk to the enterprise forum so that we can talk about it across our teams and figure out if it's something Capital Group wants to do and how do we think about the risk profile. So that was one of the first things we did is we started looking at these technologies. We've had governance in place around AI, machine learning for some time. With GenAI, we've increased the level of visibility to some of these types of questions and implementations of these new capabilities because it's so new. So that would be my suggestion is make sure you've got that in place at your organization, both in your business line, so you don't lose track of, hey, what do we need to accomplish, but also making sure that you keep your organization safe while you do it. So having it at the enterprise level is really helpful too.
All right. I think Marie has a question for Myra. I'm going to maybe recast it to what I think is being asked. I might get the gist wrong, but hopefully this is in the right direction. How is generative AI transforming the roles and opportunities for women in art direction and design roles, and then particularly in leadership positions at Capital Group? Myra, do you have a perspective on that? Since you're involved in creating marketing materials in some way.
Yeah, I will share some of my perspectives. And maybe before I answer that question, going back to the question about podcasts and resources, I also want to highlight that we should also listen to not only the leaders from the private sector, also listen to leaders from public sector. I think one very famous figure right in this space, Dr. Fei-Fei Li from Stanford, and also Dr. Jeffrey Hinton. And I do think, I think Dr. Fei-Fei Li was very famous in advocating a balance, in GenAI development between the public sector and the private sector. So, getting these different perspectives, can help you, to, gain deeper understanding in the space. And now going back to the question around how GenAI is going to transform roles and opportunities for women. Like I mentioned, I really see that GenAI is going to create more opportunities in the organization. For example, historically we have data governance as a function. In the organization, I can certainly envision that as GenAI become more mature, there will be an AI governance department is established. And I really think when it comes to Capital Group, our approach is very inclusive in the sense that when these new opportunities arise, we want to make sure that we consider, people from all backgrounds, women included. And I think those are certainly opportunities. AI will create opportunities for women. And another aspect I want to mention is in a recent interview by the NVIDIA CEO, he also mentioned that what an accomplishment that he felt very proud of our generation or his generation is that he said, I don't believe any future generation needs to code in C++. Right? Essentially, everybody can be the programmer and everybody, right, can be a technologist, right? Because we really advance the technology to a level that you can use natural language, right, to do your programming. And I think that's really worked towards a female's advantage, right? Oftentimes, right, I know in the tech space, this potentially wasn't a limiting factor, right, to limit a lot of female, right, to go very deep right into the technology side. But I do feel that in the future, right, you everybody, right, can be a technologist as long as you have that good understanding.
All right. Thanks, Myra. Maybe one or two more. There's a question from Christy, and I'll throw this out to all three of you and see who wants to respond. Curious to how you are thinking about balancing proof of concept purgatory when it comes to AI to focus on proof of value and scaling and productionalizing. I know Laura and Myra, you're both kind of thinking about getting actual functioning systems into production and impacting our process and impacting positively our clients. Do either of you want to take a stab at this?
And maybe I can start, and then Laura, feel free to jump in. I do think proof of concept is very much needed. It is a first step, right, for any production-wide success. And in fact, even before GenAI, right, whenever we develop data science model, right, we start with data science model proof of concept, and then we will run a pilot, and then during the pilot, we'll collect the feedback, right, from our business users, and then we'll refine our model. We'll make sure, right, the recommendation, right, fits into how people, run their business. And then once we have accomplished, right, some predefined success threshold, at that moment, we feel that we are comfortable enough to do a broader rollout. I don't think it's going to be different, right, when it comes to GenAI adoption, right? It's also going to be a test and learn approach. I do think it is super important that we take this test and learn approach when it's to, AI or any AI technology, because it's so new, right? So new to everyone, and there's a lot we can learn from. So this proof of concept and phase, right, and making sure you do achieve the value add that you intend before broader rollout is the responsible way for AI adoption.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add, I think really aligning with your organization on what is the sort of exit criteria of a pilot. What is the definition of success so that we can move forward, and having process around that. So the governance process that I talked about earlier has that built in, which is we have sort of initial idea check, a pre-implementation check, and like a broad productionalization check. And the point of that is to be structured about, hey, we know we don't want to stay in proof of concept forever. We've defined success criteria, and we can talk about that objectively with people as well as the risks, so that we know that we can move forward. So I think having that in place makes it much easier. Without it, it can be very subjective, right? And I think you can get stuck in that purgatory. So that would be what I would suggest.
Yeah. JJ, I would like to add that from the data and technology perspective, I think we are constantly looking how to shorten the time from POC once the value was proved to production and increase that time to market at reasonable cost. So that's what we are really focusing on that from data and technology perspective as well.
Yeah. Thank you for chiming in on that last one. We're coming up on time. We've got about 11 minutes left. So let's maybe throw one more question that's typical for these Fairygodboss discussions out there. So there's this tradition with Fairygodboss to ask panelists the following. What Fairygodboss has observed is that women do not often feel comfortable bragging or taking ownership of all the amazing things that they achieve. Can you share with us, each of you, share with us an accomplishment, personal or professional, that you're most proud of? And we'll have to keep it a little bit short here because we're coming up on time. Lisa, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I will. There's a couple of things, but I think what I think I'm most proud of and what my biggest accomplishment is, what makes me most fulfilled, is making difference in someone's life, and paying forward for all the kindness and feedback and advice I have gotten for 25 years in my professional experience, that I can pass it on to the future generation, especially to the future women engineers and leaders. And when I strongly believe in making difference one person at a time, and when I help at least one person a day or a month, that's the biggest accomplishment that I can call professionally. Personally, I think having my, what I like to call, internal board of directors and establishing that was really something that these are just things that I didn't think I needed, but when I have it, it's really precious to me, which means having people who will be in your corner, really having your best interest in heart, but also really be available there to give you real perspective on a situation and give you what I like to call tough love, which is telling you what you need to hear versus what you want to hear. That's my personal accomplishment. And without those ladies and gentlemen in my life, I would not be where I am today. And I'm very proud of it.
All right. Myra, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I would say one accomplishment or recent accomplishment that I'm fairly proud of is really spearheading the launch and the successful completion of a Women in Data and Analytics sponsored innovation competition. Like Laura and Lisa mentioned, right? We are on this Women in Data Analytics leadership team. And I'm a true believer of grassroots innovation. And then when I saw an opportunity, when I see, GenAI is booming, everybody talking about data and analytics, I started this effort to plan and launch this innovation competition. It's the first ever data and analytics focused competition within Capital Group. Over 70 global associates joined our efforts together. Right, they formed 15 teams, and they identified true business opportunities that can use data and analytics to solve. Including, leverage large language model, right, to expedite internal knowledge sharing, use machine learning model to better do tagging of our content, and also, how can we potentially optimize our trade optimization. But several winning teams from this competition have already secured funding for development and implementation. It's really rewarding to bring innovation and also to help to promote the general awareness of data and analytics in the organization. So that's something that I feel very proud of.
All right. Laura, do you want to round us out here?
Yeah, I'll quickly cover maybe one thing that's on my mind. I think I'm at this point in my career, I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to help a number of women get to the next level and really break through. And I think earlier in my career, I didn't realize how important it was to help other women and open doors. And as I've proceeded, and you see kind of the smaller numbers at sort of the top of the hill, so to speak, which is getting much better, right? But the reason it gets better is because people are opening doors. Both men and women need to be opening those doors. So as I've approached the later years in my career, I've really thought about how can I make sure that the people who are coming up at Capital Group and people in my network have those opportunities, and what can I do to help them? So I'm most proud of my focus on that these days.
All right, thank you for those answers. And let's jump to a lightning round. Give some quick answers to this one last question, and then we'll wrap up. Let's see. Start off with Myra. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah, I probably would say I have two. The first one is really embrace, your uniqueness and be confident about who you are. I do think that, diversity is not a buzzword, especially right in the world that will be powered by AI. I think we, as women, we need to be very confident with our unique background, unique experience, and be confident that we will bring perspective to the table that adds value. Just be confident, be proud about your strengths, your passion, your interests, right? Even your accent. And I would say the second one is don't be afraid of making mistakes, and really have a thick face. I do think that for female, in the audience, we always try to strive for being perfect. And when I think about a future, right, AI-powered future, it's so new. Making mistakes is inevitable, but what's really important is our willingness to learn from those mistakes, and to really embrace that growth mentality. I think those are two advice I would give to my younger self.
All right. Lisa, do you want to very quickly go?
Very quickly. Besides this internal board of directors that I wish I knew very earlier that I just mentioned, I think tagging along to the first question about bragging, I would say brag more. Well, jokes aside, advocate for yourself like you would advocate for others. Hard work, adding value to your company, being great at your craft really matters. However, don't assume others know it, nor understand your aspiration and what motivates you. Bet on yourself and advocate on yourself.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. And Laura, do you want to round us out here?
Yes, very quickly. I'll give you 3 very quickly. Manage your brand. Outstanding work is not enough. It will not stand on its own. It's number 1. Invest in your network. It will be the difference. And defend your work-life balance, because you cannot be great at your job, nor life, frankly, if you don't have that balance. So those are the 3 I would throw out.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Myra, Lisa, and Laura, for joining us today and also sharing your insights and your advice. And thanks to you all who tuned in for the discussion. Also, a big thank you to our Capital Group and Fairygodboss planning teams for getting us organized and making this possible. As a reminder, we'll be sending out a recording of today's event along with resources to learn more about opportunities at Capital Group. In the meantime, be sure to check out Capital Group's profile and jobs on Fairygodboss. Follow Capital Group's company page on LinkedIn. You'll find additional information about women in data and analytics within our company page. You can join our talent community via our career sites. You can view our career page and apply for jobs that you're interested in and qualified for. We have more than 30 job openings in data and technology right now. We'll also send out a link to a recent Forbes article featuring Capital Group CIO Marta Zaraga on the topic of mobilizing for a GenAI future. And we'll also send out some links on some recommended YouTube videos, podcasts, and other resources. And last, please feel free to connect with myself and the other panelists on LinkedIn. And finally, we'd love to hear your feedback and help us improve future events. Please head to the Typeform tab on the right side of your screen to share your thoughts in a 1-minute survey. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.